how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This is Austin from AppSheet Training, and we're back with another week of the daily no-code brief. So if you were with us last week, we kind of left off on the expense tracking app, and we're going to continue into this week discussing that app, making improvements to it, and making sure that we're getting the most out of AppSheet, and continuing to explore the world of no-code technologies, whether that's with AppSheet or other no-code products with you guys. So if you're new to the daily no-code brief, this is our daily live stream for our AppSheet training community, where you guys get the opportunity to ask questions and I'll answer them live on our stream. So we'll be building an expense tracker app this week, but we could be exploring another app next week and exploring different types of things within the no-code space. So whether that's designing an app or citizen development frameworks or whatever your business workflow currently is, those are all fair questions for today's live stream. As we can go through and answer those questions, you can see me demo how to make those changes onto the app. So if you're working on a business workflow right now, you need some help with that, feel free to add those in the chat and I'll get those answered for you on the call. Even share some of like my ideas of like how I would build that, or here's some things to think about to kind of get your app to that next state or get those business workflows optimized. So that way you can continue improving and optimizing your workflows that you're trying to build for your organization, or just making your workflows for business a little bit easier. Again, this is the daily no-code brief, and I'm your host, Austin from AppSheet Training. My role here at the company is Director of Revenue Operations, so overseeing marketing, sales, and accounts receivable. And I've built a lot of the AppSheet automations and no-code tools for each of those departments. And so I do consider myself a citizen developer, as many of you may as well. So I love building business processes and making them into no-code apps that can really increase the value of the company. So if you're like that and you're hoping to build those workflows into your work streams, I'm glad you're here and happy to help you as you're kind of navigating this. Want to build a community of people that can really push the boundaries of no code and really utilize it to make the business value drive even further for your companies. All right. Well, with that, if you want to say hi in the chat, go ahead and give us a wave. Make sure the only way we get to keep doing these, if you guys like, subscribe, and share it with your friends, your colleagues, your other business professionals. So that really helps the channel out, helps us keep being able to make these and grow the channel and continue adding valuable content for our AppSheet training community. So let me know if you like this video, and we'll keep doing stuff like this for you guys. But with that, today's topic is designing user-friendly interfaces with AppSheet. So I think we've got a good intro there for everybody that's joining. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it, and we'll see you on the other side. Awesome. All right. Well, like I said, I'm Austin from AppSheet Training. And again, this is a live Q&A live stream. So the daily no code brief is meant to be an interactive show where we're answering your questions and you're giving us feedback on how we can help you best with your business workflows. So if you have an app that you're currently working on or have suggestions for the app that we're working on, please feel free to leave those in the comments and in the chat, and I'll answer those live on the call with you guys. All right. So setting the stage there a little bit. Again, if you're joining us for the first time, we're going over our framework that we think about when we're designing systems for our business or processes for our department, or just even for our role, right? So citizen development framework that we're going over is first stage is we need to discover. Then we're going to organize all of the different processes that we have. So let's say we have a process for marketing, a process for sales, process for accounts receivable. As you can tell, those are all the processes that I oversee. So those are the first ones that came top of mind. We can talk about all of those and discuss those, kind of whiteboard those out. We're figuring out, okay, high level, what does the business look like, right? Okay, so once we have all that figured out, let's start organizing those processes. So for marketing, we need this piece of content created, and then that needs to go to a graphic designer or the content team. Okay, so how are we going to design that data structure? So then we go to the design phase. Okay, now that we've got all the kind of the main data structure organized, now we're going to design the app and how it is kind of built and intuitively used on a day-to-day by the users. So that's where we will start designing the actual app interface. So this, you can think about this stage as like MVP version. And a lot of things with no-code technologies, you just want to push out the first workflow, because you've probably either been working with pen and paper or a spreadsheet, right? And so if you get the first version out to your colleagues, they start using it, they start catching the speed that that you're able to do work now. It will become faster, and the design will get better over time. And so that brings us to step 4, iterate, right? So we need to be able to iterate this design, creating like a feedback loop for your team, so that way they can say, hey, this part of the app isn't working as I expected. Can we do X, Y, and Z, right? Or maybe there's just like an actual bug in the app and we've got to get that fixed. Okay, so that's where the iteration phase comes. Or, hey, I have this whole new part of the process, or the business process has changed, right? So that's why we use no code, because business processes change. If you built out this big application and the whole business process changed, well, now you're stuck with this application that's not designed for that business process. So you want to have the option to set up your processes so that you can iterate and change as the business is changing and developing to whatever your customers need or your colleagues need, so that way they can do their work at the speed of the business. Okay, and then you just deploy and repeat. So then you take the next process. Okay, now we have sales. How are we going to build the CRM, or how are we going to build a CRM like, I forget what they call it, but just like an add-on to the CRM, basically. If you wanted to add on Salesforce to that and do some other like tag along to Salesforce and kind of design another system that can be even more customizable than what Salesforce is. Okay, and so you're just doing that continuously, and that kind of builds that citizen development framework for your organization there. All right, so what are the steps? Today we're talking about user interface and how to make that more accessible, customizable, and really to be designed for our end users, which in our use cases with AppSheet, we're designing for our either our employees or our colleagues, an app that's going to be used for internal processes. And so since we know that, it makes kind of the design aspect really easy to plan for, just because we're designing for a specific purpose and we have access to the people that we're going to be releasing that application to get feedback. Okay, so step 1, we're going to define the app's purpose and the user's tasks. And so that's kind of handled in the citizen development framework. So we've already got that one checked off. Next, we're going to customize the layout with colors and logos. So we'll take a look at how to do that in a second. We're going to create clear forms and data views. So I'll share that with you as well in our app demo. We're going to add buttons for actions and navigation, and making sure that that's all set up and ready to go. Then we're going to test, gather feedback, and iterate for improvement. All right, so we have our steps, we have our structure and our framework that we're going to set up. So let's go ahead and hop over to our AppSheet app. All right, so here's our app that we've been working on since last week. If you missed any of the videos, they're live on YouTube. They're free to watch. So go ahead and check those out. And happy to, um, or they're available for you guys to watch at your own time, and we can uh, you can kind of get caught up if you're behind on the videos there. Okay, and sorry, I was just looking at the chat. We've got some people joining in, so let me do some shout outs real quick. Hey, Rex E Tech, nice to see you. And then Ryan, and it looks like Hat.1 is online too. Nice to see you. And then we also have Mauricio. Awesome. Nice to see all y'all. Thank y'all for joining today. And it looks like Ryan has a question. He said, I could use some guidance on white labeling my apps. Okay, great. We do get this question quite a bit. I'll give you some feedback here in just a minute. Where is the best place I can start? Okay. And then what are some best practices for managing the data and keeping the app speed while it contains over 2 years of data? Great. Those are both really good questions. Let me go ahead and answer this first one, as it's fairly straightforward from our end. And so for white labeling, we generally don't recommend doing that for AppSheet apps, but if you're going to, there is like a process for white labeling, and it's just going to the Apple Store or AWS or Google Play, and just going through those processes and then adhering to what they're saying or requesting. I believe you're going to have to purchase the AppSheet public plan. We don't do a lot of white labeling for our AppSheet apps because we're building it for businesses. And we actually, that's why I said at the beginning, we kind of recommend against it for AppSheet specifically, just because it's the purpose of the platform is for citizen development. And so being able to allow your business to not be run as in like not build a SaaS tool, but rather use AppSheet as your tool to get more work done. And so there's some of the theory behind that, but to answer your question specifically, basically just following the specifications for Apple, Google, and Amazon stores, and then going ahead and configuring your AppSheet app to be in compliance with each of those. It's a little bit tedious. You have to kind of go back and forth as you're doing those. So you would submit it, and then Apple might say, nope, it's missing X, Y, and Z. And you have to add that back in there. Ryan, if you do want more like detailed version of that, send me an email. And then I'll get with my team and send you like specific ways to do that. Great question. All right. And then next question we have from Ryan is, what are some best practices for managing the data and keeping the app speed up while it contains over 2 years of data? This is another great question. Performance is always kind of the bottleneck as your app starts to grow and expand. And so some like the easiest way to resolve this is moving from Google Sheets to a SQL database. That is going to require the enterprise plan, at least standard, if you're connecting an advanced data source. And so that is something to keep in mind, but it will help with performance, as you probably have slices set up. So instead of using slices on AppSheet, which is going to be like double layering the time it takes to update that data, because it's having to run all those expressions and filter out the data and everything, you can just go ahead and create those same slices as SQL views. And then once you've got them created as SQL views, it's happening on the like the backend side, the data side, rather than the emulator side or the app side. And so that's like a overarching way to resolve that issue. You can do expression optimization. That's a more tedious way of optimizing for speed, as you have to just like look through each expression and make sure that you're not over computing because the expression wasn't optimized for that specific feature. And then another one might just be creating an archive table, because you want to go ahead and you can take the data that you need for the app to load and then archiving it to another table, right? And then that data is not connected to the app, and then you're only loading the data that's needed for the app on the actual AppSheet app, and so you can archive data that you're not needing anymore to run on load every time. So there's some 3 ways you can help with your speed. So SQL, just to review, you can transfer over to a SQL database. You can optimize expressions. And then number 3, the archive table. So 3 ways to optimize your data there. All right. And then my email is going to be austin@crewtech.com. So if you want to email me there, then I can help you out with the white labeling. All right. Unfortunately, I can't read that chat. I don't speak that language, but glad to see that you're here as well. All right. Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and hop into today's lesson, designing a user-friendly interface with AppSheet. No worries. Glad you're here. And okay, so let's review our application. If you're new to the daily no-code brief, so this is our expense tracking app, right? And we looked at quite a bit last week. So one, we built the database, and the expense tracking, everything goes off of projects. So if we click on a project, we have specific project information here. These are actually like default values that we want generated. And we also took a look at a different way to set defaults. But yeah, these are just like initial value defaults that we used as dereferences. So that way, when we add a new expense, those pop out right away, which we could optimize here when we're thinking about, does this make sense intuitively for a user of the app, right? This would probably be a section where we'd have to like explain in the training when we're deploying this app to our end users of like, hey, these are default settings, just so you know. And then you can change them if you wanted to. But we'd rather have it be more intuitive so that users know, hey, this is what you do. And so I'm going to take a look at this app. Kind of how I'm going to run today's session is I'm going to take a look at it and notice some things as I'm noticing them. If y'all are noticing anything else, like the first thing that I'm noticing is we have the budget overview, and we also have all these columns down here that we don't necessarily need because we've got it outlined here in our HTML view. And so we can clean up this view with that in mind too. Okay. And then the next piece down here is we have these add features. So we'll talk about being able to add more expenses to a given project, and kind of how that works. So that's a basic view of our project level view. And then over here, we just have our expense tracker. And so this is really just a running list or a log, if you will, of all of the expenses. So if we click this add button, we can find a project, we can find a category, and associate the expense via this tab rather than using the project view. So one UX trick that you could do is get rid of this view if you did not want users going to the expense tracker to add expenses that way, and you only wanted them to add expenses through the related expenses view, right? Yeah, is a part of, that's correct. Yeah, is a part of is great. You can add list as you see there with the is a part of feature. Also within the form view. So that's great. So also, if you're asking for help on is a part of, let me know, and I'll walk you through that as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and start designing some more intuitive designs in our AppSheet app here. Okay, so I think the first thing I want to do is clean up these columns here. So that's pretty simple. That'll be our basic one, beginner level step. So the way I'm going to do that, zooming out just a bit, I like these links down here where I can click who showed you how to use it. Well, okay, awesome. That's great. Okay, so we have our project detail view. So I'm going to go ahead and click that link there. And then from here, I'm going to make sure that these columns are not showing just by simply putting them in the trash or removing them. And so I don't need to see the budget allotment anymore, the total expenses, or the remaining spend, because I have all of those listed here in my HTML view. All right. And then down here, we don't have these added to this one yet, so I could keep them here. Or what I want to do is come over here to our HTML view. And that's going to be, I'm going to click this link here so I can go straight to the project table. And I'm going to find the budget overview column, because that's where the HTML view is. And then I'm going to go ahead and click the edit pencil. That's going to open up this pop-up window where I can access the app formula. And if you can tell, the formatting is already structured with HTML. So that's why it's displaying the data like this, because I've told it in the editor, hey, go ahead when you're formatting this long text, go ahead and use HTML format. All right, so I can open up that app formula there and expand this window a little bit, and I can just add my columns here. Okay, so if you're familiar with HTML formatting, you can just view this code like so, but we have the table format there, and then we have the table row and then table headers there. So that's what the TR are standing for. And then here's the next row with the table header. Okay. I think W3 Schools has good documentation on HTML if you're like new to that. So that can be a helpful resource for you guys that are looking for more information on that. Okay, so I wanted to add 3 new columns here. So I'm going to just duplicate the remaining one 3 times. Excuse me. And it looks like I need monthly expenses. So adding that one there. And then I need monthly percentage of expenses. And last, I need monthly average expenses. Monthly average expenses. All right. So now I've got my header columns built. So that top row will populate with just these text values here. And so next I need the associated values. So this is where we can input the dynamic data. Okay, and as you can tell here, let me zoom in a little bit if y'all can't see this. So here is where we're inserting dynamic data. This is the budget allotment column. So this is a specific row in our Google Sheet, and it's finding that value and putting it right underneath the budget header right there. So those two are related to each other. It's just like when you're creating a Google Sheet, right? You put like the name and then the value under that name. This is just doing it in a dynamic way. So it's happening every time you open a project and you look at the budget overview. It's showing you these values in that respect. Okay, so next we need to do the same thing here with these values. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one and enter here and do 3 rows again, just like I did at the top. And then the first one I need is this column, so monthly expenses column. I'm going to paste that into our dynamic data column right here. And so it can show that value here instead of in our list of rows. And so we'll do the same thing here, add that value, and we'll add this one as well. All right. Okay, so we've got that created, and we've got the green check mark still, so all is well. And then it looks like I have a bold point here. So I think I'm just going to remove that for these. And we can just leave them as headers. So that's what the B is standing for there. Yeah. Okay, that looks great. Let's go ahead and save that. I'll mark that as done. And then I'm back over here in just the regular view of AppSheet. And we'll go ahead and save that there. All right. Okay, so now that we've got that saved, those should be populating here. Perfect. And we can see them populating with the HTML format. And it's the same as these here. So we got $50, 2%, and 50%. Perfect. Okay, so now we, instead of having these columns just continuing to go down, we can reduce our form to just these values here, or rather our detail view, right? Okay, so we got that one cleaned up. Let's go ahead and remove these from our running list here. And now we'll just have the budget overview, similar to like how this table view is set up, right? That AppSheet does automatically, but we're able to create that in a virtual column with just the budget overview. All right. If y'all have questions about that, let me know. I've kind of already gone over that HTML formatting in a previous episode. So I'm going to keep rocking and rolling unless there are other questions there. I see something about CSS. I'm unsure of what the question is about that. I'm assuming, can you use CSS in AppSheet? I don't believe so. I think that one is just going to be, if we open up that budget overview, your options are plain text, markdown, and HTML. So I don't think CSS is an option. One of the things I've heard from the AppSheet team is that the platform isn't really designed for like over the top customization with user experience, just because it's supposed to optimize your business workflows, not create like a full SaaS platform. And so they want to minimize your choices. So not having to think about like, how should I do this or how should I do that? They kind of like templatized it for you. And so they limit your choices so you can just get straight to the business logic rather than spending a lot of time optimizing for user experience. Now, there are outlier use cases to that you want to optimize user experience, and really AppSheet covers all of those basics. And so yeah, so that's um, my 2 cents there on the CSS format and stuff like that. So, okay, we've got that form upgraded. Just going to refer back to my notes real quick and see what other formats we want to discuss. So we also have the app's purpose and user tasks, customized layout with colors and logos. Okay, let's do that one. That's fairly simple. I'm not sure if okay, it looks like we have done that one. Let me go ahead and save our changes there. And we'll do a quick run through of how AppSheet designs the general layout there. So let's see here. We got settings. Okay, so if we go to settings over here, then we can go to theme and brand. And you have the option of changing from light to dark mode, right? I prefer light mode just because dark mode, there's just some complications with dark mode sometimes, as you can see with the billing graph. But yeah, whatever you prefer, you can use that one. And then here's your color selection right there. And then you can assign your app logo. You can also put a custom app logo if you want to by clicking that, and then selecting from one of your images. And I believe it has to be in your Google Drive to update that one. And then you can also use a launch image. So these are fun. You can do a custom one, like if you wanted to put a GIF in there. And so some companies have like a animation that pops up. You can put a GIF of that, and it'll like animate when something's loading. So if we wanted to change it to black, we could do that. And then when we save it, you can see the screen turns to black, and then it opens up the emulator. You can also add a background image. And so if we save that, you can see that instead of it just being gray, we now have that background image there. I do prefer this. Let's see, the none setting. I think that looks the cleanest. So I'm going to keep it like that. And then same for this one. Just keep it that blank background. It's kind of how I like to have my AppSheet apps. The cleaner for me, the better. So we have also the view name in the header. So that is up here. Also, the logo is in the header, and then hide menu. I always keep that open just in case people want to search. That's like one of the coolest features of AppSheet is you have that search filter. Also, another thing that's cool is you can use this filter to kind of filter by each of your columns, right? So that's a pretty cool one there. And then you can also update your font style and your text size there. Okay, so there's our general settings. And then as you know, I also like to have the, this one over here. So I like to have my detail view side by side. I change that in the global settings, and my form style side by side as well. All right. So that's just kind of like global settings there, right? That you can kind of update and change that way you're not having to go click through every single view and everything. Let's see if there's anything here in the table view that I might be missing. Right align numeric columns. No, so I think all of that's good. I also generally do the preview new features and desktop mode. Um, I really like the desktop mode. There are some things that are a little bit different with desktop mode if you're used to the classic way it's presented on the desktop. So just be aware of that. And if you come across a situation where like, I can't figure out how to do this in the new desktop mode, let me know, because that's what I use all the time. And I've kind of seen where the bugs are and either found workarounds or they've already fixed it. Okay, so we're back in the project view over here. So we went over global settings there. Again, looking back at my notes here, we went over the colors and logos, create clear forms, and data views. All right, let's take a look at our forms to make sure. Need to learn not to use context. We do use context a lot, so that is a really good AppSheet function if you're wanting to like show and hide different column values, and that helps with that one a lot too. Okay, let's see what else we got here. So let's make sure that this form looks like we want it to. So this one definitely needs some cleaning up. So let's go ahead and clean up this form. So I clicked on the edit pencil there for desktop mode. Oh, okay. So you're having some trouble with the context expression in desktop mode. If you want to explain that a little bit more, I'd love to hear that because I haven't experienced that one yet. Okay, so I'm on the project view and taking a look at the project form. Gotcha. Okay. I haven't had any issues with that, but maybe I just haven't seen it yet. I can definitely take a look at that as we have desktop mode enabled and see if I see any bugs there. Okay. So for this form, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I need to add some of the headers, right? So that this form isn't so long and tedious. And I don't need to show any of these columns in this format, as well as date time created and created by. Gotcha. So it's just like not reliable. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so we're actually going to use the context view for showing and hiding these values here. And so if y'all have seen that before, all we're going to do is go to this column right here. So remaining spend, click the edit pencil and click this little formula icon there. So we can open up the show if expression. And we're going to use what's called context. And I'll zoom up for y'all. View type. And we use does not equal form view. And if you wanted to call out the specific form name, I've had to do this on a few of my apps, as there's some forms I want it to show on and some forms that I don't. You can use just context view and then call out that form name. And then it would only hide it for that specific form view. You can get super fancy with if expressions and ifs and all of those things. So we're just going to do the basic one right here with context view type does not equal form. All right, so just going to copy and paste that one because we're going to do it on a few of them. And we'll come down to, so we got remaining spend, we need total expenses next. So same process, edit pencil, formula icon to pull up the show if expression and paste in context view type does not equal form. And we'll click save. So I'm going to go ahead and power through the rest of these real quick. If y'all have questions, this is a good time to add those in the chat. And if y'all are like, hey, I'm looking to find out information about this, go ahead and throw that in the chat as well, so that I can make sure that this is geared up for you guys as best as possible. All right, so on the monthly expenses now, and then monthly percentage is next. And then after that, we have monthly average. Oops. Yeah, and maybe some app developers like to see some of these. For example, this billing graph might be a helpful one for your project that you want to keep in the form. But for me and the end user experience that I'm anticipating for this application, I don't find it necessary being there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it. And by remove it, I just mean hide it. And so also, I don't want users to be able to edit these. So this is a very important part of why we use context view type, because we do want it to show a like a log of who added this record and then who or what time it was added. And so that's where context view type really comes in handy, because you can hide it from the form so end users don't accidentally change it or enter in a random time or a random person, but you can still see it in the actual detail view of when that record was added. Okay, so that should be cleaned up nicely there now. And then round 2 of this is going to be like breaking it down. So as you can see, that cleaned up our form to only allow these fields now. Much better. So that's a lot cleaner, a lot more easier to fill out. So basically what we might do here is just add a header for fill out project information below. And that just might be like directions. And so we'll just add a virtual column and call this form directions. And for this, we can just go ahead and use a blank expression because it's going to be used as a show column. And so go ahead and click done there. And form directions, scroll down and find it at the bottom of the column list. And the type I'm going to change to show. So I scroll down to find show there on the column type. And then I'm going to click on the edit pencil again. And the category is going to be, I think I'm just going to make it text. And the content that I want it to show is, I'm going to do single quotes and enter directions. Fill out the project budget allotment below. Okay, and so that'll give them those directions there. Save that. And I think that's going to be it there. Click done. And then I'm going to come over to my application and hit the link right there. And then for this, I'm going to use, okay, that should be good there. Let's go ahead and save that one. And I'm probably going to have to add the column order and then rearrange where that's showing up. So right now it's at the bottom. I would like it to be shown at the top up here. And so the way we can do that is go ahead and put this one as form directions. And then, so now we have the directions at the top and all other columns at the bottom. And so we don't have to worry about adding all the columns because we set up the context view type already. And so it's going to hide the columns we don't want to show. We have the actual header up here. I actually think it would be nice to just have like another one there. And maybe we can even make it um, dynamic based on the project name that we give it. Um, I don't know, but that's something else for optimization too. If you wanted to add just like an actual form header there, rather than this one up here, it'd be kind of redundant, but you could do it. So we do have some time, so I'll just go ahead and add that one as well. And so this will be our form header. And again, just using the open quotes there, I'll save that one and mark it as done. And then this one is going to be type show and edit. And I'm going to actually make it the page header, I believe. It might be section header, but we'll leave it as that for now. Again, open quotes, and then we'll just call it the project form. Okay. And we'll save that one and mark it as done. Again, following our link down here and selecting it from the column list, dragging it up to the top. All right, so now we've got the title there, and we can go ahead and save that. And I think that form looks much better than all of the random stuff that was in there before. So we got the title of what we're filling out right there. And what we could do to make this even clearer, that might help with adding stuff like this in there, is just go ahead and remove this view name and header if we're going to have it there. I still like the view name and header option because we could have it for other views. But as you can see, this is kind of like the iteration process as you're thinking about it. Nice. Hey, how's it going? And then so yeah, that's okay. So that is our project form right there, and how we can clean up the form view so that it's nice and tailored to what we're wanting. All right. If we wanted to add expenses from this view, we need to make sure that on our expense table, our project ID right here is a part of checked. I'll click done. And then that way, whenever you're adding a project and you're like, oh, I got to add expenses already, let me just go ahead and add that directly from here. And you can click new to add those expenses straight to your project. And so this is very long. And so we can just change that one. If we go back over to our project view and do related expenses, and instead of it saying this long description right here, we're just going to do add expense with an S. And then I think I can highlight these and add the quotes. We always like to do that just to make sure AppSheet knows it's text. And so I'll save that one there as well. And now we have a much better column name right there instead of that long string of text right there. All right. That's a very clean looking form right there. All right. So project form view, directions, fill out the project budget allotment below. So you name your project, your category, vendor, department, and I believe department is actually a grouping of it. Let's check our database real quick, because that could be another way we can clean up data. Doesn't look like department has a value. So instead of making it like a reference table, let's just go ahead and change it to a enum. So I click the edit pencil, come here to type, and I'm going to change it to like a drop-down list. And we'll allow other values. But really right now, we just have sales, marketing, and I think, what's the last one? Operations. Okay. And I want it to be a drop down. I just like the drop down. Sometimes we'll do like the buttons, but for this view, everything's in drop down mode. So let's just keep it consistent. That's just a design principle in general. Is consistency is very nice. All right, so now we got the form cleaned up there, and we can do all of our selections like so, and even add a new department if we need to. Okay, so this would be like for admin, right? They need to be able to fill out that form. And then for adding expenses, we can pull up that view next. And we cleaned this one up last week, so that one's good to go. We got the project, and it's already got its associated default values there. And then we can go to expense details. That's already pre-selected for us or auto-filled. And then we just need to type in our expense and take a picture of our receipt, and we're good to go. So that's kind of the key to process building, right? If you can make it structured and simple, then people will be more likely to continue using your tool and using your workflow systems. If it's complicated and confusing, like a spreadsheet or a piece of paper, sometimes a piece of paper is it is user friendly, but then for the cost of admin for filing and like making sure there's upkeep, that can get super confusing, data loss. So that has its own complications. But applications can have the same issue of a spreadsheet if they're not structured the right way and designed for the end user to be able to fill them out the correct way. So we want to make sure we're having clean data coming in so we can have good metrics to measure with the data that we're receiving. Because if we have bad data, then we can't make good informed business decisions. But if we have good business data, it's structured, it's clean, then our business decisions can be more clear and accurate. So that way we can continue using the application or using the data to make informed decisions. All right, so there we go for our form views. And then let's see what other points I had here. And we had add buttons for actions and navigation. Okay, so we have about 7 minutes left. Let's see if we can add any buttons here that would make this a little bit easier. Let's see. I'm trying to think just what buttons would be useful for this application. One thing that I can show you guys just real quick is like, let's say for this view right here, I don't want people accessing the expense tracker. So if I still wanted to show the running list, I could do a couple things, right? I could just say, hey, for the table settings, I only want it to be, I don't want people to add anything, okay? I just want them to have the ability to update it, or I really don't want them to delete anything either, but if they need to make an edit, that'd be fine. Or we can just assign it as read only. And then you can also put in a formula. And so if we only wanted admin to be able to update, add, and delete, we can add that feature in there. And then just non-admins the ability to have read-only access. So that's where you could update that. Similarly, you can do that as a security filter. And so we can go ahead and mark that as done. And now we don't have to worry about that action button. So it's kind of two sides it's the same coin, right? You can either create more features or take away features that would be more confusing to the end user. So that's kind of what you're thinking about when you're designing applications to be intuitive is there too many features here or is there not enough? So finding that balance. And so that's why I always go on like this, how can I make this more simple? How can I make this streamlined? Because if the goal is speed and being able to get the things done as quickly as possible, and then the less decisions I have to make about what I'm filling out, I can just click once here, fill this one thing out. I don't have to process a bunch of information over and over and over again. Um, that's the benefit of using like an AppSheet application for your business workflows. All right, so we took away that action button there. And then our last one is now we just need to ask the end users, hey, go ahead and start testing this app. Give me some feedback. Open up that feedback loop for end users and continue iterating and designing to be able to make this app as user-friendly for your audience and for your coworkers, so that way y'all can continue to get more work done. All right, so I think that's going to wrap up our lesson for today. We'll continue working on this application tomorrow and maybe hit some of the points that we didn't get to today as well. So I'm going to go ahead and throw up my recap slides here. All right, so let's do a little bit of review. So today we took a look at designing user-friendly interfaces with AppSheet, for sure. Thanks, Ryan. And we took a little tutorial on how to create user-friendly features in AppSheet. So make sure to go back and watch if you missed anything or if I went too fast. You can watch the recording and get caught up to speed there. We also had a live Q&A where we answered some questions, and come back tomorrow and we'll talk about data validations and constraints in AppSheet. And so that'll be making sure our forms are validated and we can do like dependent dropdowns and everything. We've talked about that in the past, but we'll do another version of that and hopefully open up some new insights and ideas for y'all there as well. So be sure to come back tomorrow for that one. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, found the information valuable, really would appreciate a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can register for the next session at appsheettraining.com/livestream. And I'll send you like a direct link to our YouTube videos. So that way you can have it in your inbox and refer to it whenever you need to. And then you can also sign up for your free AppSheet Training Tech Talk. So if you have a business use case that you're looking to get more insight in that you want our team to help with, either from a consulting standpoint, a training standpoint, or a development standpoint, feel free to reach out to our team. We have a specialist dedicated to take your calls and see how we can best help you in implementing no-code technologies into your organization. So with that, also don't forget appsheettraining.com. If you don't have a profile already, it's also free to sign up as a user on appsheettraining.com. We also have a full training library, but we'd ask for you to sign up for that AppSheet Training Tech Talk, and we can give you more information if you want to dive deeper into your AppSheet Training learning journey there. All right, so thank you guys for watching today. I really appreciate the time that you give me every day to go over no-code tools like AppSheet with y'all. I love talking about this stuff. I love hearing the feedback from y'all in the chat and all of your comments. So please keep it coming, and I will see you guys on the next one. Y'all have a great one.